Hi everyone, so it's me again, Rizome Kilingin from BSED Social Studies 2. So today, we will have another topic that we are going to discuss. My discussion is the continuation of the topic that is being assigned to my group mates, which is the teachers' welfare and privileges, the Magna Carta for Public School Teachers, RA 4670. But before we start, I want to share to you the quotation from Thomas Jefferson. According to him, the study of the law is useful in a variety of points of view. It qualifies a man to be useful to himself, to his neighbors, and to the public. As a future teacher or as a teacher, it is very important to study these different kinds of law in order for us to know how to defend ourselves in the future, or even our workmates or co-teachers, and most of all in the public, because we know the code of ethics in which how the community look teachers as a role model. That's why it is very important for us to have knowledge or be knowledgeable enough about this kind of law. So before we start, let us know first what is the meaning of Magna Carta. Magna Carta is a document constituting a fundamental guarantee of rights and privileges. It is according to Meriam Webster. Magna Carta is a great character and considered as important document in history that is used to establish the principles that everyone is subject to the law. Whatever positions you have, you still need to follow the rules, or there's still rules that you need to follow because it will guarantee the rights of individuals or the rights for justice. That is why once we study this topic, we will able to learn that even teachers have rights that we need to consider, and we should know and study about it so that we are aware of what we are going to do. Now, we will going to start discussing the RA 4670, the Magna Carta for Public School Teachers, particularly the Section 18 to Section 35. Let us begin with the Section 18. Cost of Living Allowance. Teachers' salaries shall at the least keep pace with the rise in the cost of living by the payment of the cost of living allowance, which shall automatically follow changes in cost of living index. In here, the teachers need to have promotion and their salaries must increase because change is constant. We all know that, and that needs and cost of living are increasing. Also, it should be worked with Secretary of Education and to the national government, especially to the approval of the President of the Philippines, and it have step-by-step process that needs to follow. Section 19, Special Hardship Allowances. In areas which teachers are exposed to hardships such as difficulty in commuting to the place of work or to do other hazards peculiar to the place of employment, as determined by the Secretary of Education, they shall be compensated special hardship allowances equivalent to at least 25% of their monthly salaries. So in here, even though the teachers is being assigned from far places and the teacher experienced difficulty or she encountered hardship, then there should be an additional compensation for the teachers for that hardship that she are doing or experiencing. There are some that they receive an awards for the sacrifices and hardship of the teachers as he do his work. In Section 20, salaries to be paid in legal tender. Salaries for teacher shall be paid in legal tender of the Philippines or its equivalent in check or treasury warrants, provided, however, that such check or treasury warrant shall be cashable in any national, provincial, city, or municipal treasurer's office or any banking institution operating under the law of the Republic of the Philippines. So in here, salaries of the teacher should be paid in legal tender, and it can be cashable in any banking stations that is still operating under the laws, national, provincial, or city and municipal treasurer's offices. In Section 21, Deduction Prohibited. No person shall make any deduction whatsoever from the salaries of teachers except under specific authority of law authorizing such deductions, provided, however, that upon written authority executed by the teachers concerned, lawful dues and fees owing to the Philippines Public School Teachers Association and premiums properly due on insurance policies shall be considered deductible. Example here is you have GSIS or you have loan. You can process it and deduct as long as you have consent to it, because deduction without your authorization is not allowed or prohibited. Now, let's proceed to health measures and injury benefits. In Section 22, medical examination and treatment. It is compulsory medical examination shall be provided free or of charge for all teachers before they take up teaching, and shall be repeated not less than once in a year during the teacher's professional life. Where medical examination shows that medical treatment and or hospitalization is necessary, same shall be provided with free by the government entity paying the salary of the teachers. In regions where there is scarcity of medical facilities, teachers may obtain elsewhere the necessary medical care with the right to be reimbursed for their traveling expenses by the government entity concerned in the first paragraph of this section. So, in this section 22, it is very helpful and better if the medical examinations and treatment will be shouldered and covered by the government. Section 23, compensation for injuries. In here, teachers shall be protected against the consequences of the employment injuries in accordance with existing law. The effects of physical and nervous strain on the teacher's health shall be recognized as compensable occupational disease and according with existing law. Now, let's proceed to leave and retirement benefits. So, under here is Section 24, study leave. In addition to leave privileges now enjoyed by teachers in public schools, they shall entitled to study leave and exceeding 1 school year after 7 years of service. Such leave shall be granted in accordance with schedule set by the Department of Education. Section 25, which is indefinite leave. An indefinite sick leave of illness demands a long treatment that will exceed 1 year at the least. Section 26 is all about salary increase upon retirement. Public school teachers having fulfilled the age and service status requirement of the applicable retirement laws shall be given 1 wage salary raise upon retirement, which shall be the basis of the computation of the lump sum of the retirement pay and monthly benefits thereafter. Section 27, which is freedom to organize. In here, public school teachers shall have the right to freely and without previous authorization both establish and join organization of their choosing, whether local or national, to further and defend their interests. So we have the Philippine Association for Teachers and Educators, like the PACAE, which is a seminar, workshops, trainings, and conferences. Another is the CPD, units for PRC license renewal for professional teachers. In Section 28, which is all about discrimination against teachers, prohibited. The rights established in the immediately preceding section shall be exercised without any person to commit any interference or coercion. It shall be unlawful for any person to commit any acts of discrimination against teachers which are calculated to make the employment of a teacher subject to the condition that he/she shall not join organization. Second is to cause the dismissal of or otherwise prejudice a teacher by reasoning of his membership in an organization or because of participation in organization activities outside school hours, or with the consent of the proper school authorities within school hours. And lastly, to prevent him/her from carrying out the duties laid upon him by his position in the organization, or to penalize him/her for an action undertaken that capacity. In Section 29, we have National Teachers Organization. National Teachers Organizations shall be consulted in the formulation of national educational policies and professional standards, and in the formulation of national policies governing the social security of the teachers. So we also have the administration and enforcement. Administration and enforcement, we have Section 30, which is all about rules and regulations. The Secretary of Education shall formulate and prepare the necessary rules and regulations to implement the provisions of this Act. Rules and regulations issued pursuant to this section shall take effect 30 days after publication in the newspapers of general circulation and by such other means as Secretary of Education deems reasonably sufficient to give interested parties general notice of such issuance. As teachers, it is very important for us to follow rules and regulations. Next, we have Section 31, which is all about budgetary estimates. The Secretary of Education shall submit to Congress annually the necessary budgetary estimates that implement the provisions of the Act concerning the benefits herein granted to public school teachers under the employ of the national government. Section 32, which is all about penal provision. A person who shall willfully interfere with, restrain, or coerce any teacher in the exercise of the rights guaranteed by this Act, or who shall in any other manner commit any act to defeat any of the provisions of the Act shall upon conviction be punished by a fine of not less than 100 pesos or more than 1,000 pesos, or by imprisonment in the direction of the court. In Section 33, which is all about repealing clause, all acts or parts of acts, executive orders, and their implement rules inconsistent with the provisions of this Act are hereby repealed, amended, or modified accordingly. In Section 34, it is all about separability of clause. If any provision of this Act is declared invalid, the remainder of this Act or any provisions not affected thereby shall remain in force and in effect. Lastly, the Section 35, this Act shall take upon its approval. Here in Section 35, all acts shall take approval first before it's going to implement it. And that ends our discussion for today, which is all about the RA 4670, the Magna Carta for Public School Teachers, particularly Section 18 and Section 35. So thank you for listening, and I hope you learned something from our discussion for today.